across some interesting information in relation to black worms in the facial masks, and also black worms on the so-called COVID-19 test, the coronavirus test. And these black worms look like some form of nanotechnology that start to come to life when heat or moist air from your breath is placed upon these things, mozzies. I just went into the chemist warehouse in Cairns. That is what I assume to be a business registered to the Commonwealth of Australia, which is obviously, as we're all starting to work out now, which is a private company or a subdivision of the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, this chemist warehouse, I asked them, are you aware of any other technology that is in the face masks that they're selling in the bulk, $30 a pack? Can you just imagine the amount of money that they must be making out of these face masks? But is there more to it? Because when I asked them if they were aware of any other extra technology, such as these black worms appearing in the face masks that they were wearing, they said no. They were under the understanding that it was just a face mask, and they had no idea that there was any other technology or chemical or whatever it is inside these face masks that should be disclosed. Now, I would be under the impression that consent to buy these face masks is consent to wear them. So if the consent has been given without full disclosure, if we haven't been fully disclosed or fully made aware of these black worms or this nanotechnology that may be in these face masks, and also that's been found in the COVID-19 test equipment, the cotton buds, or the so-called cotton buds that are pushed up to the back of your nose, just under the brain, then is this a criminal act by whoever is behind this COVID-19 push? There's another problem with COVID-19, is that whenever it appears on paper, it appears as COVID, as in all uppercase text. Then it has the hyphen, which is an incorporation with the number 19. You have Latin and you have Arabic. You do not have any English except for the English grammar that's being used. But the grammar using a hyphen to incorporate the COVID, and which is the Latin COVID, and the Arabic 19, the Arabic numbers. This is an incorporation. It's a military account. It's not a de jure. The name COVID has not been written in proper English. It's been written as some form of debased Latin, or Latin, which is no part of the English language. And therefore it goes back to Rome. It is a Roman or a Vatican derivative. It comes from Latin or Rome, which are the languages used for the Vatican, which is ancient Latin. So who's behind this push to push this nanotechnology into these masks and into these testing kits, so that we breathe in all of these worms, these black strands that we are not aware of? Now, I stand proud. I don't wear masks, and there are a lot of laws that protect people such as myself and you that don't wear masks in shops, because if a shop cannot ask you why you don't have a mask, it can't force you to put a mask on, and it cannot reject service. So you have all the rights that you ever wanted before or had before, and none of those rights can be impeded by that commercial operation that's trying to force you into wearing a mask. it's pretty obvious now that it has to be a full consent, because is there something in those masks put in there made from China that we all breathe? Are we infecting ourselves with something that could be more sinister down the track? Now, you know, they all want consent. So when you put on these masks, you're consenting to it. So if there's a poison, like they did to the Indians, the American Indians, they laced the blankets with smallpox. They also did that to the Australian Aboriginals. They laced the blankets with smallpox in order to destroy the native or the national people of the land. It's a form of piracy, but it's a dangerous system. And is that system of lacing these face masks with something dangerous the same system that they did all those years ago, lacing smallpox in the blankets, pretending to be the saviour when really they were the murderers? Is that what the Bill Gates and the Fauci system is all about? You've got to remember, in World War I, the millions of people that were killed. World War II, I think there was something like 76 million people died around the world in World War II. But we have a new mass murderer that's hasn't been detected yet. And that could have been the Bill Gates or the WHO Foundation in relation to the AIDS pandemic and other pandemics that have happened. And the death toll on the AIDS around the world is estimated at 120 million people died of that infection. Was that man-made? What is this new COVID thing? And also, if you understood the banking system, the debtor, creditor, administrator, triad, then you would understand the reason for so many deaths in World War I, World War II, and now in World War III. Why there are so many, why they need so many deaths. And in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document, this thing has been sort of spelled out like a schematic or a plan. They have to kill the debtor before the debtor realises that they were always the creditor all along. But through this very clever system, debtor, creditor system and administrator, they have tricked the general population, the people, into becoming citizens of a foreign banking state. They've become citizens of a pirate ship, a pirate corporation. And they've become so dependent on that pirate corporation that for them to leave now, they would starve to death. They can't depend, they can't last a week without some form of handout from the government. They've let themselves depend on this government to such a point where now they could probably not even last a week. They would starve without the handouts from these private foreign banking corporations. So I would urge people, knowing that these banking corporations may benefit greatly from the death of the debtor, who was always the creditor all along, that these masks and these COVID tests may be far more dangerous than what we've been told or what we've been led to believe. No one has any idea. The chemists are not aware of it. And yet, look at all this information that is now coming out. Thousands of people are getting out their little cameras and videoing these moving worms inside the masks and the test kits. So I would be very careful. The reason why I haven't published anything for quite some time, nearly a year, is because Rowan has been locked up a year ago. We're still trying to work out what his charges are, and I've hardly had any word from him. So I've had to be very careful, because I went through the same thing in 2016, where I was threatened that I will go to prison and I will never see the light of day. Well, the magistrates for some reason weren't game to do it. I don't know what I did. I probably do know what I did. Because it's all contract law. So I agreed to everything, but there was compensations involved. But Rowan was not treated so well, and they've ignored him. They've ignored his certificate of birth. They even ripped it up, and they've just got him held in prison. And I've had to be a little bit more careful to try not to antagonise anything too much, because I'm worried about Rowan being locked up. I guess that if the powers that be, the elite, have got this New World Order thing in mind, and if they have some sort of a death wish upon the citizens of the world and the people of the world, then the last thing they want is for the general masses to find out their master plan, especially if it involves killing or murdering millions and millions or even billions of people. You would see that they would be very concerned about that if they couldn't pull their plan off before people figure it out what was going on. So I'm hesitant. I've also, my last movie, the COVID-19 movie, Foreign Military Occupation, was pulled down. I tried to put it up twice, and then I got the threats from YouTube that they will close the whole channel down if I'm not careful. So I've really just been sitting back watching the show unfold. But I think it's become very, very dangerous for the citizens and for the people. It seems to have, it could be indiscriminate form of killing that they're going to use. So be vigilant, double check everything, be very careful. Because the people that you thought you could trust